Pillay is also standing by for us. Gillian, tell us about today's outcomes.
Very good afternoon to you, Desiree. Very good morning. It's been a long morning already and quite dramatic developments in the Vlakfontein matter. I'm not sure if you do remember last Monday, Ernest Mabaso, the suspected serial killer, he has now withdrawn his bid and he is now going to apply for bail. So that was quite shocking events that the family had to endure. You saw earlier how emotional they were. And what has delayed proceedings further, Desiree, is that the second accused, Peter Kupi, the 61-year-old, who is the co-accused to Mabaso, he has also appointed a private attorney. So that has basically delayed proceedings because the legal representatives now have to, familiarize themselves with the case. They have to get statements from the prosecution. And that has basically set us back, and we will be back here next Tuesday. But real dramatic events there. We saw Mbali, one of the deceased, Mbali, who is deceased, her sister, who we had spoken to earlier. She really, an impassioned plea there she made to accused one. And what I understand is while we were doing that interview, while she had broken down in that very emotional interview, I'm told that Ernest Mabaso had shed some tears in the dock. I'm not live TV. I'm so sorry for that. I'm not sure why he had shed tears there, but quite a dramatic turn of events in what was supposed to be the bail application of the second accused in this matter, Desiree.
Then we wanted to ask you about Ernest Mabaso because even in the footage that came in the morning, you could see the tears in his eyes. So you haven't been able to establish why he was looking rather emotional today.
What we do also understand is he actually, via his lawyer, Desiree, he had indicated that he had been threatened by the elderly accused person. How true those allegations and claims are, we are not sure, but he will now be kept at the Krugersdorp prison, and accused two will still be kept at the Johannesburg prison. To answer your question around why he looked so melancholy this morning, or why he looked so emotional this morning, probably a lot weighing on his mind, Desiree. You can imagine all this media coming to court to get a glimpse of you, him being accused, him being the prime suspect here. We know that authorities had put out a red alert, had launched a manhunt for him in the wake of those bodies being discovered at that Vlakfontein home. So a lot possibly weighing on his conscience, listening to all the interviews, because he is sitting right there in the dock while these quite emotional interviews are taking place, and you can imagine them talking directly to him, saying that he was a child of the house. They had asked him before if he was involved, and he had said he wasn't. And that sister who had lost Mbali as one of the deceased persons in this chain of events, Desiree, had really spoken from the depths of her heart. You could really feel the pain from all those family members that we had spoken to. It wasn't easy, to talk to them, but you could feel the pain, the deep sorrow, and still a lot of shock and unanswered questions around someone who they'd welcomed into their home, who they'd loved, who's being accused of quite heinous crimes, Desiree. So the look or Mabaso being very emotional could be that a lot going on in his mind, him really, the severity of what he's being accused of, possibly him thinking about it now. We haven't had an opportunity to talk to him and to ask possibly, what is going on in his mind. Why is he, the demeanor that he's putting forward, why is it so emotional? But from someone from the outside looking in, I can just imagine him thinking about everything that is waiting for him being accused of these 7 murders, 3 counts of rape of minors, theft and robbery. It's a lot possibly now, him looking back at everything, if he is involved in this, and that will only become really clear in the trial and in the bail application, Desiree.
Gillian, you did a story yesterday, and one of the community members who you interviewed threatened violence and insightful behavior. We know this is a harrowing story, but are the community who are supporting this case and the family, are they organizing in a way that they get proper advice in terms of not breaking the law and taking matters into their own hands?
We had spoken to the MEC of Community Safety here in Gauteng, Desiree, and she had indicated that they will be drawing up a petition to oppose bail. And I'm sure community members, you know, in the wake of what had happened, you know, a lot of emotions. People are saying a lot of things off the cuff, possibly that they don't mean. I don't think that it would be wise that they would, or that they truly mean that they would take the law into their own hands. But I do think the court, they're saying they will take the law into their own hands, Desiree. But I'm sure that authorities and members within the community would advise them as to the repercussions of that. But many are saying it's in the best interest if he doesn't get bail, because his life or their lives are in danger, and that the community, they're likely to take the law into their own hands. What they said to us in those interviews, Desiree, they meant it. So I'm sure that those are the kinds of factors that the court will take into consideration when perusing through the factors whether to grant bail or not, Desiree.
So when the threats were made, this is how the day ends today. When the threats were made, only one of the accused was asking for bail, and now both of them are asking for bail. And I can imagine heated arguments taking place
Quite
afterwards.
Devastating. Yeah. Well, the demeanor from the family as we exited court, you know, they were basically crushed. I mean, you can imagine them coming to court for a bail application of one of the accused, but now learning that the initial person who had abandoned that bid is now going to apply for bail when we're back here next Tuesday. So quite shocked still from family particularly, but also the community, you know, pushing and being very vocal that they won't want those two accused to get bail, Desiree.
Again,
let's go to an ad break.
Again, Gillian, where to from here?
So we return back to court next Tuesday, Desiree, and then we will now see the formal application of a bail application taking place. Both those accused will put factors forward why why it's in the interest of justice that they be released on bail, and that's likely to be a very lengthy application. We're likely to see witness taking the stand. We're likely to see affidavits being read out into court, cross-examination. It's like a mini trial per se, and by month end we should have some sort of verdict whether those accused will be granted bail or whether they will remain in police custody until trial. But the road so far has been very difficult for the family, understandably, but also the community that has come back here to this court in solidarity, a community that has been quite frustrated by the high levels of gender violence that they've seen perpetuated in this very community against women and children. And for this reason, quite harsh utterances being made on their part, but understandably so, looking at the senseless killing of these 7 victims in their community that was discovered 2 weeks after those victims had been killed. So when we return here, it will be full arguments before this magistrate, Desiree, and then we will know whether those accused will remain in police custody or if they will be released on bail.
Gillian Pillay is at the Lenasia Magistrates Court. Let's now cross